Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I'm ready to do my first impressions on the Chode-on. This is the Microtech Mini Troodon, or Troodon Mini. I don't know which goes first on there, but I call it the Chode-on because it is a stubby, little, short version of a Troodon. Now, this knife was loaned to me by my buddy Brandon from EveryDayMinimalist, so I will link down below to Brandon's YouTube channel, his Instagram, his TikTok. Brandon is awesome. If you like the type of videos I make, odds are you're going to like Brandon's channel as well. Amazing knife reviews, really cool dude, and he is much better at post-production and cinematography than I am, that's for sure. So check him out if you haven't. Anyway, so Microtech makes a number of OTFs. They make a number of small OTFs now. Where did I put it? It's in the drawer or something. I have a UTX 70, which I'll be reviewing soon, that I got in the Give a Knife, Take a Knife, Pass Around box. I've had a number of their OTFs at this point. A good selection of them, and I've experienced a few more than I have owned. So I've had a Combat Troodon, I've had an Ultratech, I've experienced the UTX 85, the Dirac, or D-Rack, however you say it. I'd like to get my hands on a Cypher soon. I've held a regular Troodon, so I'm familiar with their offerings. And I even held an Exoset at California Custom Knife Show. So they have quite a few OTFs. That's kind of what they're known for at Microtech. And it makes sense to me that they would make this knife. But if I'm being honest with you, I wanted to check this out to make chode jokes. I'm not actually all that interested in this knife. If I had purchased one, it would have been to make chode jokes. It's a joke knife to me. It's kind of like the Spyderco Pochi. Kind of a joke to me. Actually, this is 100% a joke. This is like 90% a joke. But I just don't really see all that much functional purpose from OTFs in general. Most OTFs that I've experienced, I have found, have made pretty poor EDC knives because of their blade grinds and the geometry and the ergos and all that. They're not what I look for in a blade that I want to EDC to do EDC type tasks with. I just find that they're kind of inferior at it. And this being even smaller than the others would make it even less effective and efficient at those type of cutting tasks. But I have been a little bit pleasantly surprised with this knife. So maybe it's because I had remarkably low expectations for it, like really low, but I just like it more than I thought I was going to. Do I want one of these for myself? Do I plan on buying one? Probably not. But it's kind of working for me better than I thought it would. Now there's a couple of things about the Troodon platform in general that I think make it a little bit more compelling as an EDC offering than knives like the Ultratech. The biggest one is the width this way, or the height if you want to call it that. Because on an Ultratech it's a skinnier body, thus you get a skinnier blade. And so especially when you do a double-edged version of that, you get really thick behind the edge geometry. And they're just not that effective at like traditional cutting tasks. They're like poking, stabbing implements, right? But on the Troodon, because you get a little bit more width, you can also have a little bit of a taller blade this way. And when you do a single-edged version of a Troodon, you actually get an okay blade geometry. Now this one, as you can see, has the Tanto, and so this tip, I have found, is really good at opening up packages. And this edge is actually pretty good at processing cardboard. And guess what I do with my secondary knives more than anything else? Open up packages and process cardboard. That's the number one thing that I do with probably any of my knives, realistically. Unless you're talking about like my fixed blades, then those never really see, all my EDC fixed blades do, but like my outdoor knives don't see much cardboard cutting. But for an EDC knife, that's kind of what I expect it to do a lot of the time. On top of that, I expect it to be very capable at cutting things like zip ties and like little packaging things, like that kind of stuff, right? So I've used this to open a good few boxes at this point. Here we are in December, and we've been getting an insane amount of packages lately, and it's just kind of been in my back pocket. 2 days now that I've carried this in my back pocket. I've had it for longer than that, but I've got a lot of knives I'm trying to cycle through right now. Anyways, so I've carried it twice at this point, And both times I've just been a little bit shocked how well I can pull it out of my back pocket. Plus, it being an OTF, it's really easy for me to manipulate left-handed, and a lot of the time when I'm like doing precise stuff, opening small packaging, stuff like that, I will pass knife to my left hand because I'm left-hand dominant for fine motor skills, oddly enough. Anyways, I do both, but keeping it in my back left pocket, it being an OTF, it kind of works great to pull out and deploy and use and then put back into my back pocket. It's a platform that works in that way. So the blade has impressed me for cutting tasks because compared to even like the Dirac Delta that I just reviewed, this is much more effective for ordinary cutting tasks. And it's a tiny stubby little chode knife. It's hilarious to me. Now, where it kind of falls apart a little bit is the ergos for me. It's just not very big, and when I use an OTF, the way I want to hold it, if I'm leveling with you guys here, is I want to use the switch as a thumb ramp. That's what I prefer to do. Now when I do that on here, I have to choke back into this saber grip that really, come on, just does not leave much knife in my hands at all. It's 2 fingers and the fingertip of the second finger is hanging off. Now if I do it in more of like a choked up saber grip, it's better. Now I'm getting like 3 fingers on here, almost 3.5 if I really choke up. But if I do a 3-finger grip on here, I just have to put my thumb up on the spine of the blade. And because OTFs inherently have a little play, that just feels less sure to me than it does on if I'm comparing it to my Lil Native. If I put my finger up on the spine of the blade on the Lil Native, it feels very secure. Here I just feel that little bit of wobble. I don't quite like that. The clip is a little hot spotty because like the 3/4 of the knife is clip. They used their regular size clip, I think, on this tiny little knife. So there's all that. Plus it's got the ridiculous glass breaker that I wish I could freaking bury in the earth. It's just, I hate glass breakers, especially when they stick out this big. I've been on about that enough lately. I don't feel like I need to keep bringing that back up, but I hate glass breakers. I think this knife would be way better if it didn't have it. But yeah, it's just kind of working for me more than I expected it to. It is still far from perfect. Like, if I compare this to another small knife that I'm in the process of reviewing right now, being the Spyderco Dragonfly 2. I've got the Cutlery Shop exclusive glow-in-the-dark one. That knife is a smaller, lighter platform than this. It's a backlock, so it's way less fun than this, sure. This has all the OTF fun that any other Microtech does. The switch feels the same, the action feels just as cool. It's not quite as cool that there's not a ton of blade coming out of it, so there's that, but the feeling of it, eyes closed, feels like a Microtech OTF, right? The Dragonfly doesn't have that fun, but I get a full 4-finger grip on it when I'm choked up into the forward finger choil. It's got a nice thumb ramp that actually works really well for me. It's got a slicey, thin little blade that just cuts really, really well. And like, it costs less than half of what this does. So I'm still not sold on this knife. But I've just found that as Microtech OTFs go, this one is about as good of an actual cutter for EDC type stuff as any other Microtech I've experienced so far, OTF wise. They're out the sides, are fantastic. My Stitch, great cutter. The Hawk even, pretty good cutter. The SOCOM, excellent cutter. The, what's it called, Sigil, fantastic cutter. Like, their non-OTF knives make a much better use case for being EDCs. LUDT, another great example. I don't love the LUDT personally, but the blade on it, the cutting ability, very good. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at on this so far. The ergos, not very good for actually hanging on to. Now, if all you're doing is opening an envelope or a box, then like you're probably not even really holding this like a normal person does a knife. You might be kind of doing one of these, like holding it like a, I don't know, X-Acto knife or a pen or something. Like, you can do weird stuff when you're just cutting through tape and paper. But once you're like processing the cardboard, cutting through double wall cardboard and stuff, like this blade can do it, but the handle makes me nervous. So I guess that's where we're at. Again, Brandon will be linked down below. Thank you, buddy, for loaning this to me. There's a full review coming on this knife soon. I'll make a point to carry it a good few more times, experience it a little bit more, and then, yeah, we'll see where we come out on the other side. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the next one.